Welcome, nerds, to the review show for lazy people. This is That Just Happened. In fact, this week, the things that just happened, the clue to what you're in for here is, and stick with me on this, the 50-year Invincible flow. I think I got better on that one. Yes, nerds, that is correct. This is the review show for lazy people because I am a one-man band, which means I can't really get out and do the things on time all the time. If it's a TV show, maybe we're going to be a little bit more up to date with it. If it's a movie, maybe it came out a decade ago and I'm just finally getting around to watching it, or I watched it again with fresh eyes and thought it was relevant to the conversation somehow. So that is kind of the premise for the show. This week we are talking about the Oscar-winning, or nominated, I don't know because I didn't watch, the animated movie Flow, Invincible, Season 3, Episode 6. I know I said we weren't going to talk about Invincible until it got better, but I just can't let this one slide. And then something I intended to talk about last time is the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary specials. Yes, there's more than one, and we're going to talk about that. Plus, a little bit of the Oscars that I did watch we're just going to go over that stuff real quick because, again, some of it was worth it, but literally about 5 minutes of some of it. Anyway, so let's get into our first piece, which is Flow. Again, nominated at the very least for an Oscar. Don't remember if it won. Don't really care because Oscars suck. But Flow, for those of you that don't know, is an animated movie. It was nominated for Best Animated Picture. It is an animated movie about animals that don't speak and live apparently somewhere else in the universe, because a lot of the stuff that happens in this movie, there's no way that they were on Earth. But still interesting in theory. Just don't fully know who this movie was made for, because your main character is a cat, which is kind of the only cat we see. There might have been one other one at some point, but really all of the other cats that we see are carvings that some people are speculating were done by the human owner, or human-ish owner, because again, they're not on Earth. There's no way that this takes place on Earth. Yeah, some people are presuming that the carvings are from the human owner of the cat, but that all the humans on this world are gone. They've abandoned it, they've died. You don't know. It's not explained. Nothing actually is ever really explained because, again, no dialogue, all animal stuff. It's very interesting. There's a lot of scenes in this movie where it feels like they're trying to get a little bit below their actual depth. They're reaching down and trying to find something meaningful, and then they come up with empty hands because it's difficult to do that kind of stuff without any dialogue. It is possible, that is entirely possible, but they just aren't finding out those ways to do it. There is a lot of speculation, and I can see how you could come to these conclusions. I don't know if this is actually the intent just because of the amount of vagueness involved in this movie, but there's some people who are speculating that there are biblical references in here. The bird, I forget what kind of bird it was, but the bird represents some sort of, the birds rather, all the big white birds represent the Nephilim. So this is like an Old Testament thing. The Nephilim all were taken back up to heaven, so that's apparently what happens. Oh, spoilers, I guess, too, if you care. But yeah, that's apparently what happens. And yeah. So the reason that you know for absolute fact that this does not take place on Earth is because there is a giant whale creature that looks like maybe it's prehistoric, or also maybe it came from Venus. Either one would be possible and either one would be acceptable, really. But I don't know, it's a difficult watch is the other issue that I have with this. I know this conversation about this movie is kind of all over the place, but that's where we're at with it, because the movie's kind of all over the place. But it's a difficult watch because it's like your main character, this poor little cat, just can't catch a break. Every like 3 to 5 minutes he's in some other life-threatening situation. It's like it's trying to give people with a soft spot for pets anxiety is really what it feels like. So yeah, would I recommend this for anyone else? The animation kind of feels like it came from like a PlayStation, late era PlayStation 1 or early era PlayStation 2. So it's not great animation. The allegories just don't really come across very well. There's no real moral here. It is kind of sweet that the animals kind of mourn the loss of the whale creature. I don't know who this is for. I can't necessarily recommend this for anybody because I don't know who the target audience is. So no, I don't necessarily recommend this movie. If you haven't seen it, maybe save yourself some time and go watch something that's going to be a little bit more entertaining. All right, nerds. So like I said at the beginning of the season, this season we are going to be doing a big push for the merch store. The rest of the month of March, we will be probably just continuing with the basic nerd stuff. I have a couple of new designs that are going to be going in that are not going to be part of the basic line. The basic line is not going anywhere, but if you want to support the channel, that's one of the better ways to do it. Go check out the store linked in the description. It is a spring store, and I haven't set up the proper URL, so it's Generally Nerdy store or anything like that just yet, but it is active and you can purchase stuff from there. So the link's just a little combobulated. Go check it out. Again, linked in the description. You can find all of your nerdy merch needs. We will be getting the Yoda pool design back up. We also are going to be doing a proper redesign on Do You Even Pop Culture, Bro? Those will be going up before the end of the season. However, the first special design that's going up is going to be a variation on one of the nerd shirts that are already up there. So go get your basic nerd, and then if you are, you know, a gamer or a music nerd or whatever, then keep your eyes peeled throughout the rest of the season, and there will be something special just for you. So right now, what we got is the basic nerd. It's super cozy, super comfy. Go check it out. Link in the description once again. Let's get back to the news. Next up, though, let's talk about, oh my god, Invincible, Season 3, Episode 6. This is the introduction. I can't even remember the supervillain's name, but there is this is like the season of really mediocre to poor writing for Invincible, because you live in a world where superheroes exist, all right? So that just unto itself, that changes a lot of perceptions of reality, that changes a lot of expectations for people who are in that superhero category. Because if one superhero is protecting a geographic location and there's another superhero who is ostensibly 20 times stronger than our first superhero, then damage is going to happen. And like, these are things that I feel like your suspension of disbelief should allow you to get to with no problem. It's when you take those things that are just kind of assumed about a world like this, and then you subvert them with how a world without these things would react should these things just suddenly appear, right? So if we had more of a Superman situation, fish out of water kind of superhero story where it's a regular world and then this one superhero shows up and causes destruction, protecting this world who's never seen superheroes before, causes destruction because he's protecting the world from outside invaders of some sort, other potential superpowered threats. That would be understandable if you have characters who get really mad about casualties of war and, you know, making an omelet and breaking eggs and whatnot. So that would make sense. However, this is a world that has known superheroes for ages and millennia and stuff. Isn't the Immortal like a few thousand years old? He's like, I mean, in the last episode, we saw him at like 3,000 years old, but right now, I think he's like 2,000 years old, right? Over 2,000 years old. So this is a world that has had superheroes for a really long time. So like when super villains come along and cause destruction, and your superhero can't stop all of the destruction, and some of that destruction causes casualties, it stands to reason that the superhero is not held responsible for the destruction caused by somebody else. And that is the core conflict of this episode. This villain that we've introduced, who has the static abilities, who can charge up this electric charge through some sort of static manipulation, is trying to hold Invincible responsible for the crimes of Omni-Man. Now, there is an argument to be made that Omni-Man should stand, should be held accountable somehow for the things that he's done. Yes, I understand that argument. But to put anyone in the shoes that also Invincible is responsible is a ridiculous proposition at the core of it. And if that is your genesis for conflict, you have a bad writing situation on your hands. How is that the way that this world works? How is that the way that anyone in this world's brain who is even partially sane, how is that the way that their brains work? Why would somebody who is trying to prove a point, who also has superpowers of their own, bring a loved one, let alone the only loved ones left in their life, into a potential conflict situation with other said superpowered? Like, there's just so much wrong with the conflict in here. There is a better story in here somewhere that gets across a similar message, but a more logically thought out version of that message. And this was not it. This is not the way you tell this story. Again, haven't read the comics, so I don't know if it works better in the comics, but it sure as shit is not working in the animated series. So that's my 2 cents on episode 6. Let's move, or was it episode 6? Is that where we're at? Yeah, episode 6. So let's move on because we've already spent a lot of time talking about Invincible this season. We're going to go into next the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary specials. So you have 2 specials. There's a documentary as well, which kind of counts as a third, but really as far as like the entertaining, not educational side of things, we have the homecoming concert and the 50th anniversary episode. Both are available on Peacock. If you have Peacock, I'm pretty sure they're on the free side of Peacock, so you don't necessarily need an account. But I don't know fully how Peacock works because it comes with my cable. So yeah, there's that. Anyway, the actual episode, which plays out much like the 40th anniversary, I think was the last time we did a big anniversary thing like this. It plays out very similarly. You have cast members from almost every cast in the audience. Some of them are up on stage doing classic bits in an updated version of classic bits or what have you. It's hilarious. It's fantastic. They avoid the really garbage stuff that hasn't been working for the last few seasons. They shine on the stuff that worked, very few things that worked over the course of the last few seasons, and really focus on the nostalgia pieces that everybody loves. So that's pretty freaking awesome. Also, the musical guests, there are a few musical guests. It's like a 2-hour performance, I believe. Some of the musical stuff on there was super awesome. But the biggest thing was the actual homecoming concert, which technically aired, I believe, on Valentine's Day. So we're a couple of weeks late on this one. I did actually watch it over a week ago. I just forgot to put it in the notes for that just happened last week. I'm sorry. But super noteworthy things here. Oh yeah, we have Post Malone singing for Nirvana was good, was better than the Fire Aid performance from Nirvana, but I think a lot of the Fire Aid stuff you can chalk up to technical difficulties. Post Malone does a decent job of fronting them for vocals. When it comes to the actual singing stuff, when you get to the more aggressive, like shouting, yelling things that Kurt did, Post kind of breaks apart there a bit, but still it was super entertaining. You have Alabama Shake's Brittany, I can't think of her name, performing with Miley Cyrus was weird. Also technical issues with that one because her guitar just wasn't working. They had a much better performance on the proper SNL 50 episode, which was also towards the beginning, so there's that. By and large, oh, and then the Lonely Island stuff was pretty great. There was a Lonely Island medley, which may or may not have been on the homecoming concert. I'm pretty sure it was. And then Will Ferrell gets up on stage a couple of times in both the episode and the homecoming concert and just does greatness because he's still mostly got it. I really dig Will Ferrell. But honestly, if you're only going to watch one, because they are both fairly long, if you're only going to watch one, I would say watch the proper episode with the skits and the musical guests, and not necessarily the concert. The concert, by and large, was fairly mid. So there's that. From there, let's go to our last piece of that just happened, and that is the Oscars. The Oscars happened. Don't really care about who won awards. I do know that Dune, I believe, won 2 awards, so that's pretty cool that at least Hollywood recognizes when good art happens sometimes. But like, really, a lot of the other awards were garbage. The only parts in my eyes that are worth watching, some of the musical performances were interesting. Conan O'Brien's opening monologue is golden. Maybe not as good as he could have done, but he's had to tone a lot of stuff down, I'm sure, because it was broadcast television. The Ben Stiller award, what was the award that he gave? Something to do with the technical side of things, production management or something like that. It was hilarious. The visual gag that they did while he was presenting the award was pretty great. So again, who won the award? I don't know. I just know that the first part was great. And then we have Morgan Freeman's eulogy for his very good friend. And then we have Morgan Freeman's eulogy for his very good friend, Gene Hackman. Was beautiful, was absolutely, a lot of people should watch that just because it's a great way to remember Gene Hackman. If you're not watching his movies, then you know that he touched the lives of the people he worked with and his friends and things. So it was really cool. But other than that, like, whatever. The Oscars, they're a thing that we'll catch up on in text in our social feeds later, right?
Why do I get the impression you forgot to push the subscribe button? I mean, it's free, so go ahead and do that, and, yeah, okay, thanks. Yeah, thanks. We'll get back to the show now. Okay, bye.
Oh, and then before we sign out, there was another one. I didn't have it in the notes, which is why I have to interject it here. But Harley Quinn, I finally finished the most recent season of Harley Quinn. I believe we're in season 5 now. And I still stand by what I said last time we talked about Harley Quinn. And it's almost got back to the point where it's like, okay, this is why I was okay with the first 2 seasons. Why I actually thought the first 2 seasons were great. We're still not quite getting to where it should be, though the setup for the next season with Lex Luthor's sister as the new villain kind of looks like we're going to get there. There was a little bit too much of the non sequitur style of comedy this season. I think that I've pinpointed exactly why I wasn't much of a fan of this season, though it did seem a little bit more cohesive than the last 2 seasons. Season 3 and season 4 both really didn't do a whole lot for me in the overall scheme of things. But yeah, it's because it feels like they're really doing like a bunch of one-off episodes. Though, I mean, the Harley being in the Bat family wasn't exactly the same either way. Season 4 really just fell apart. I really didn't dig season 4. Season 3 was okay, but season 4 not. Season 5, by the end of it, started to feel cohesive again. Started to feel like less just dick and fart jokes and more kind of comic book style comedy. So yeah, it cleaned up its mess a bit by the end. It's leaving a little bit of stuff for season 6 to accommodate for. Hopefully season 6 can get us back on track and we'll be digging that show again. But as it stands right now, yeah, if you haven't watched season 5, you didn't miss anything. Season 6 seems to be setting up, or I'm sorry, season 4. If you haven't watched season 4, you're not really missing anything. You can get caught up in the recap that starts season 5. Season 5, I would say, is mildly worth watching. Put it on as background noise, put it on while you're doing something else, until you get to the last 3 episodes or so, and then those will set up the next season, which it looks like if they stick with it, the next season's really going to knock it out of the park. That's where we're at with Harley Quinn. No say. I think that's everything. All right, let's do it. So yeah, that is everything that happened this week for me, nerds. What happened for you? What did you watch? What did you listen to? Did you take some of the suggestions from last week and maybe go listen to some Kill Switch Engage? Go watch, I don't remember what the TV show, oh, Buffy. Did you go watch Buffy because Michelle Trachtenberg? All of these things, let's talk about that. As far as things happening soon for me. Again, we are weeks away from anything really significant as far as like content goes. So we'll be keeping tabs on the shows that we're watching, and if there's a movie again that I feel like I need to catch up on. Oh, noteworthy here as far as movies go, for free, the original Matrix trilogy is up on Pluto right now, so go watch that. Probably actually going to be our suggestion for next week, not gonna lie. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. So thank you very much, nerds, for joining me. We will see you in the next one. Before we go, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here, and that just happened.